everybody, Adrian here, back with another video. Some more articles about the upcoming Halloween movie. I'm giving you three articles in one, all talking about Jamie Lee Curtis and some of the comments she made or her thoughts with the, social commentary having to do with this movie and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna read you some of the articles, and you can do with the information what you like. But I'm just a little concerned because I want this movie to be really, really good. Because I'm a independent screenplay writer, and my motto is where story comes first. I focus on character development and writing good plot and making you care about the characters. And some of these movies that are coming out, all that is put aside. All the character development and plot and story comes secondary, and instead you got all this social commentary they're trying to inject in there, to accommodate a certain demographic of the Me Too movement or millennials or social justice warriors. And I mean, but I just want to focus on it being a good movie and having story development, and that's all. I want this movie to succeed. But I'm still going to report on these articles, so let's get into the first one. It's about Jamie Lee Curtis on a panel talking about the Me Too movement. So it starts off with like this. With Laurie Strode set for an all-out battle with Michael Myers, Jamie Lee Curtis is talking character growth in Halloween's SDCC panel. I'm not sure what that means, but San Diego Comic-Con panel. There you go. Halloween features one of the strongest women in storytelling, with Halloween joining the festivities at the ongoing, San Diego Comic-Con. Fan in attendance got a brilliant panel featuring Jamie Lee Curtis and the director David Gordon Green. While presenting new footage, the horror icon began discussing how Laurie Strode, her return, which couldn't have come at a better time, is reflecting society's current climate. Okay? So here's what Curtis, who returns to the franchise after 16 years, is saying about the upcoming Blumhouse film, reflecting the Me Too movement. A random act of violence stayed with her for 40 years. I'm assuming Laurie Strode. She never had mental health services or service. They sent her back to school. She carried the trauma and the PTSD to this day. What they are honoring today is that trauma. So I am not my trauma. The narrative of my life is not that I am a victim. She is taking back her legacy of my life, and you don't own me anymore. And that, weirdly enough, that seems to be a thing that is a theme in the world. I know you are nerds, but if you watched the ESPYs and saw those strong women stand on the stage so that MF rots in prison. I guess she's talking about some person there, some guy. Those women are saying, you do not control my narrative. That is why I am here, because this character is taking back her narrative. So apparently Laurie Strode, the character in the new Halloween 2018, it's like a deeper meaning having to do with the Me Too movement. And Michael Myers is a representation of all the men that have done horrible things to women or are accused of doing that. Very interesting. Let's continue the, story here. So here's article number 2, talking about Jamie Lee Curtis at the Comic-Con panel again, where she actually cries about the Me Too movement. So Jamie Lee Curtis tears up, evokes Me Too movement during Comic-Con panel. So Jamie Lee Curtis stole the show during the second half of Universal's double-header Hall H panel at Comic-Con on Friday evening. Curtis had a moving response when asked how it feels to resume the role of Laurie Strode 4 decades after first stepping into her shoes. She said, "What was so interesting about the movie that director David Gordon Green and co-wrote is that what they're honoring today is that there comes a point where you say, I am not my trauma. The narrative of my life is not that I am a victim," she began. Here is a woman who's been waiting 40 years for the person that she knows is coming back to say, I am going to take back the legacy of my life. I'm going to take back my narrative, and you don't own me anymore. And that, weirdly enough, seems to be a bit of the thing in the world today. So, if you don't already know already, Jamie Lee Curtis is like a well-known hardcore feminist. She even wrote a book on how to be a feminist. So, she most likely, had a lot of creative control in the writing, in the story. So, just be aware of what you're getting into with Halloween. And, I'm still hoping it's going to be a great movie. But all these, like, social commentary, feminist undertones, that might affect the story in a big way. But who knows? Let's continue this second article. Alright, so the second article continues. Curtis also references Thursday's ESPY Awards, where more than 140 sister survivors of disgraced sports Dr. Larry Nazar were honored. "I know you're nerds," she said, "but I don't know if any of you watched the ESPYs the other day when all of those women stood on that stage while that, MF rots in prison. Those women stood there and said, you do not control our narrative anymore, and that is why I am sitting here today in this great Hall H for a movie for David Gordon Green, because he wrote a character who's saying, I am taking back my narrative." Another emotional moment came when an audience member got choked up, recounting a life-threatening incident in which he evoked Curtis's character in the Halloween films after a man with a knife cut his phone lines and tried to break in. He said he thought to himself, what would Jamie Lee do, before running into the street in search of help. "Because of you, I'm a victor and not a victim," he said. Tearing up, a visibly moved Curtis descended from the stage and wrapped him in a long hug, kissing him on both cheeks. "These kind of emotions are real," she said when she returned to the stage. So now I understand about this guy that she was talking about. This Larry Nazar guy got accused of doing all this horrible stuff to these women, and Jamie Lee Curtis was there presenting awards to these sister survivors. And so she's saying how Jamie Lee Curtis, the new character in the new movie, is relating to these sister survivors, and Michael Myers is kind of like, like this Larry Nazar guy, and he's going to represent all men that, made women victims and harmed them. And, Jamie Lee Curtis's character is going to overpower the evil man and, not be a victim anymore. And so, at least that's what I interpret. You let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks so much for sticking with me, guys. I hope you like and subscribe, to my channel, and, hit the like button for this video. Now let's finish off with article number 3. Again, Jamie Lee Curtis at the panel on the Halloween Me Too movement, and the Time's Up movement. This one's interesting. So, Halloween star Jamie Lee Curtis says Laurie Strode will reclaim her narrative as she faces masked murderer Michael Myers for a second time in 40 years later sequel, which is at its heart a movie about trauma. The Scream Queen's iconic final girl survived her encounter with Michael Myers in John Carpenter's directed 1978 original horror classic, but Curtis notes the babysitter turned survivor shouldn't be compared to kick butt women like Ellen Ripley or Buffy Summers, from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and stuff. So she's saying that the babysitter turned survivor should not be compared to kick butt women like Ellen Ripley. Very interesting, because I thought John Carpenter kind of referenced that, the character of Jamie Lee Curtis is supposed to be like a kick-ass Ellen Ripley or like a Terminator Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor type character. But apparently Jamie Lee Curtis is like, nope, don't you dare compare me to them. So she continues to say, I know it's the thing that people say about women who fight back. Is that that we kick butt, If you look at the first movie, Laurie wasn't anything like those women, Curtis told Variety during San Diego Comic-Con. Laurie was a repressed intellectual high school student with sort of romantic delusions, and she was forced by circumstances way behind her control to face her deepest fear, which is surviving a madman with a knife. The meek Laurie Strode walked away with her life, but she didn't walk away entirely unscathed. She was left irreparably scarred after that event of October 31st, 1978. And then the woman you meet 40 years later is a woman who survived that trauma for 40 years, trying to convince everybody in her populace that Michael Myers was coming back. She only kicks butt when, again, she is forced to by the confrontation with Michael Myers, Curtis said. So I kind of understand what she's saying. It makes kind of sense. But that's what made, classic slasher movies so great. Because you had a woman that was the, like a weak victim type that she had to overcome. I know people these days, like feminists with the Me Too movement are like, that's wrong. The woman is not supposed to be weak. She's not supposed to be like a victim. Yeah, but then doesn't she need to overcome the evil, masked man with the knife? If she's already tough, if she's already not scared and doesn't have to if she doesn't need anything to overcome, then what's the point of a slasher film? And I'm sure these writers or directors that made the old school slasher films didn't have in mind, oh, let's make the woman weak because I hate women, or because they had some, beef with their moms and that's why they hate women, so they made them weak victims in the movies, and then the serial killer hacked and slashed them and blah blah blah. No, I think they needed a character that started off with a disadvantage, with a weakness, not being a super strong, roided out woman or whatever. And then, going throughout the story, she evolves. She overcomes the fear. She overcomes the mental strength that she needs to then face the masked killer face to face, not being afraid to stand there and be like, I'm ready, let's fight, I'm not afraid anymore. That's why the old school slasher films worked. But now you have the new school slasher films where the woman doesn't need to overcome anything. She's already faster, stronger, smarter, roided out, feminist, and she doesn't need a man, because the men in the newer the new generation of slasher films are stupid, written, irrelevant. They get killed off fast. They make stupid decisions. They're the weak ones who don't know anything and need to overcome, but they don't overcome. They get killed off. And they need a woman, a strong feminist Me Too movement woman, to save the weak man. And that's why, Star Wars The Last Jedi didn't do so good, or the new remake of the Ghostbusters all-women feminist thing, and you had that one male character who was literally like the dumbest man, the weakest, frail man you've ever seen. But it didn't do good at the box office. I'm just hoping that this doesn't go the same way with being forced to think a certain way, where it's rammed down your throat, blatant in your face. I just want a good story. Is that so wrong to ask? I want a good story with good character development, where you care about the characters, they overcome something, and the movie is great. That's all I care about, is having a great movie where story comes first. So let's finish off this article. So, Jamie Lee Curtis continues saying, Jamie Lee Curtis relates to the Me Too movement, says on the upcoming Halloween reboot relates to the current Me Too movement because it's about her character taking back control. And so it's tricky because any woman who fights back is a survivor and a champion. And we have a world right now where women are finally saying enough is enough. Time's up. Me Too. So that's the Time's Up movement, the Me Too movement. And Laurie Strode is one of those women. It's just she's not an ass kicker. She is a survivor. And it's different, I think. I think it's a movie about trauma. I actually think surviving trauma is the sort of underpinning of the story. Curtis said the 17-year-old was forgotten in the wake of the Myers murders, explaining she received no mental or emotional support to help heal the invisible damage caused by her attacker. In the 4 decades since, Laurie has suffered many indignities in the process of surviving Michael Myers. No one paid any attention to the level of trauma and PTSD that she suffered, Curtis said. That's who we meet 40 years later. The actress added, timing of the franchise reveal coincidentally synchronized with the recent wave of abuse awareness and subsequent female empowerment in the film industry and beyond. So you see, it's not a coincidence. They're doing this film now during the Me Too movement and the feminist, empowerment, stuff like that. So it's not my imagination. She continues to say, I think somehow the way of all of it lined up was this sort of perfect moment, coinciding with the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement, and all of this female empowerment where women are taking back their narratives and saying enough is enough. And it's my turn to write the narrative, Curtis said. And that's why Laurie Strode has been trying to do for 40 years by saying, he is coming back, he's coming back. And so it feels like the confluence of that frustration and that rise of women empowerment has come together in this movie in a beautiful way. Simple, classic, scary, as all heck. So simple, classic, scary as all heck, and yet very powerful, connected to the Me Too movement. So there you have it, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the 3 articles. Let me know in the comments about what you think about this whole Jamie Lee Curtis and her comments about the Me Too movement, and how this story of the Halloween new movie coincides with the Me Too movement, and how, she's going to play the victim that's going to overcome the evil man. And Michael Myers is, you know, the evil man who is, like the quote unquote accuser of, doing all this bad stuff, harming women. And she's going to fight the evil man and overcome this and women empowerment and all that. So I'm still hoping the movie is going to be good and not too much of this social commentary, like, shoved down your throat, forced in your face, forcing you to think a certain way. I just want a good story, where story comes first. So there you have it, guys. Please like, subscribe. Until next time, thank you so very much. Thanks everyone for watching. Please like, share this video, hit me up on Facebook and Twitter, comment down below. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And also don't forget to check out my other videos. And until next time, remember my motto, where story comes first.